When you are searching to add distance to your swing, just remember tinstaffel. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Now I say that because when you try to add distance in your golf swing, you will start to sacrifice consistency, and is it really worth it? Today we're going to take a look at Collin Morikawa and Freddie Couples, and I'm going to show you how to analyze your swing to see if you have too much hands and arms. Just remember, if you do try any of this stuff, make sure you're doing it with a certified golf coach that can help you recognize your cause and effect. And if you do like this type of stuff, do me a favor, hit that like, share with somebody you know. Let's grow this community because it's all about free education to stop you from destroying your swings without you knowing it, unfortunately. Because this channel is all about helping you recognize your golf swing and not just apply some random tips that you hear. It's all about education. So let's get going. Okay, very quickly, Freddie Couples was born in 1959, 65 today, and I went on PGA Tour's website, and we can see that the first time I can get some statistics was from 1987, so that means he was 28 years old. Now, Collin Morikawa currently is 27, so it's pretty close for government work, but if you take a look at this driving distance average, he has 276.8 yards, which at that time was ranked 6th place. Now, I have some statistics here for you. Currently, 6th place is sitting at 315.7. So I looked at the difference between how far they hit it in 87 to now, and the difference is 38.9 yards. So if we add 38.9 yards on his past 276.8, that comes out to 315.7, which guess where that places him in today's market? 6th place. So he hasn't really changed much, but if we take a look at his driving accuracy, it is horrible. 58.71, which is 163rd at that time. So now let's go to Collin Morikawa and take a look at his statistics. If you take a look at his statistics, 296, which is 135th, but look at that driving accuracy. It is 70.15%, which is 7th. So we see a complete reversal. We see somebody that is more accurate, that is below the average for driving distance, and then Freddie Couples, we saw an above average driving distance, but suffered in driving accuracy. So tinstaffel. You have to know, what do you want as an amateur? Do you want more distance or do you want more accuracy? And I promise you, if you focus on accuracy, you will see your scores drop, because the odds of you hitting the green in regulation when you hit the fairway in regulation jumps up by 50%. So stop focusing on distance. But if you really want to know how to add distance, let's take a look at their swings. So for those that care about wins, let's just take a look at the proof here. With Collin Morikawa is focusing on consistency. He's already won 10 times, 6 times in the Tour, 4 times the European Tour, including 2 major championships, and he's 27 years old. Freddie Couples didn't start winning until he was in his 30s. He only has 1 major. Granted, he has more wins at 33, but that is through his career, and he only has 1 major. So let's just let that stew in your mind for a second, but let's just start breaking down their swings and looking at how we can learn from both of these students and show you ways to recognize, are you a hands player or are you a body player? Body player on the right side with Collin, hands player on the left side with Freddie. Let's break it down. So we got some lines on the screen. That red line, we're looking at the shoulder tilt, and where that center of the shoulder tilt goes right through the hands to their ball position. We can see Freddie's is slightly disconnected in terms of where that club head is in relation to that tilt, where Collin Morikawa on the right side is connected between the shoulder tilt, his hands, and the golf ball. So it's a nice one straight line, which is already promoting body turn and striking it as one piece, as opposed to Freddie on the left side. We do see that ball position run right through his head, where Collin is on that left shoulder. So already we can start to see some big differences in setup, which is why I'm a huge advocate of how you set up will form the whole cause and effect of your swing. So as we take that club back, we can see already, look at the amount of arm manipulation in Freddie's. We see a lot of disconnection with Freddie early on. As the shoulders turn, the hands are already picking that club up. And just to show you how much of disconnection they are, look at the shoulder turn in this position. We can see some similarities in shoulder turn. Here is just short of 90, and here is a little bit short of 90, but look at where the hands are in relation to Collin. They're still out in front of the chest. They haven't crossed over and disconnected, where we see Freddie, the hands are well up here, and then at the top of the swing we see a little bit more shoulder turn. So if we pause right when they get to the top of each of their swings and see where Freddie Couples' turn is just past 90. Collins is a little bit further past 90, but take a look at where the hands are in relation to the body. We see that Freddie's has definitely crossed over to the right shoulder, maybe even further back of the right shoulder, which will also pull his club shaft past parallel, where Colin is just shy of parallel, meaning look at the amount of turn that Colin has on the right side, and his club is nowhere near parallel, where Freddie has less turn, but his club went past parallel. So we've seen a lot of this manipulation with the hands and arms, which works perfectly for Freddie because he has timing of Zeus to make this work at that elite level. Secondly, I want you to look very close to the wrists. We have Freddie, who actually cups his wrist, and Colin, who actually bows his wrist. Now, the students that bow their wrist typically are trying to hit the golf ball more with the body. The students that cup the wrist typically have a more arms and hands motion, and they have to throw their hands down at impact. That's just what I have seen the top end athletes as well as some amateurs. And most amateurs don't bow the wrist. Most amateurs cup the wrist, and that's just to help get that club back further. By cupping the wrist, that club will move back further. And why does it do that? Because probably we're not turning enough. We don't have the capabilities to remain connected and turn back. So we think we're like Colin, but really we're like Freddie. And as we come down, both of them have that in common. They're shifting from the right side to the left side. So even though their head stays fairly neutral, you can see the effort. We can see the drive of the hips, and this will also start to tilt their spine slightly away from the target, which will allow them to hit up. We're going to draw a couple of lines right before impact and then after impact, and I want you to video your swing and do the same thing, and this will tell you if you are arms player or not. So we're going to draw where the club is parallel. Let's find Freddie's. That's pretty close to parallel, so we'll draw it there. That's where his hands are, and we'll actually extend that line. And what we'll do is actually extend that line all the way. And let's find Collins. So Collins is right in between. We can see that that club does get parallel in between those two frames. So let's just draw that right about here, and then we are going to draw it after impact to see where it is parallel again. As we strike that golf ball, we come on through, we see that Collins is parallel right here. So we're going to draw the line there, and then we're going to do Freddie's, and we can see Freddie's is parallel in between those two. So this is pretty close to parallel. And what do we see? Which one is tighter? So the tighter those parallel lines become, the more you are relying on your hands and arms to hit that golf ball, because they have to fire so quick that it goes from parallel to parallel much quicker. The deeper, the wider we can get those two yellow lines apart, that means you are swinging more with the body and less with the hands and arms. So if you take a look at a robot, if we had Johnny number 5 on here a couple of days ago, you notice that his shoulder tilts and his hands would always be in that same position. So if you wanted to do this with Johnny number 5, the tilting is what hits his golf ball, and all he has is the release of his wrist. He doesn't have to worry about the arms crossing because he has such amount of turn with his shoulder tilt, which is impossible for us to do as humans, which is why we have to cross our hands slightly from right to left. But the deeper you can turn, the more connected you are, the less you rely on your hands and arms to strike that golf ball. And you can see something interesting with Freddie Couples. Let's delete those lines, and let's go right at Freddie Couples here and watch the hands. Notice how the hands will release, but look at that right hand. See how the fingers and thumbs are coming off the club shaft? You wonder why. Because if you have a motion where your hands are relied upon to throw the club, you cannot grip that club very sturdy. You have to get that club looser. And you take a look at somebody like Vijay Singh. His right hand would come almost completely off the club because he too had to get the wrists more involved. Where on the right side, the club can't really get dislodged from the grip because he is striking the ball more with the body. He has to keep that club a little bit more firmer in his hands to avoid the wrist release. He's trying to hold off on the release, and we can see here, right in that position, the club is going right through again that center point, and he's basically trying to delay a release while his body is clearing and tilting more. And to help you see this a little bit more clear, let's just go to where that club is parallel again. So right about there's a club parallel, and let's just draw some angles here. We're going to draw his shoulder tilt angle and see what that number is. It's about 46 degrees. And when the clubs are parallel here, we can see a lot more tilt, and this is at 72 degrees. So we can see a big difference in that tilting. So it just goes to show you, if you need to have more tilt, you better start bowing those wrists to accommodate that tilt. If you cannot tilt and turn as much and you need your arms to get more involved, you better cup that wrist and expect your consistency to just kind of go away, even though you might add some yardage, because he is also adding a little flying right elbow to allow another lever to be involved. So this requires an immense amount of timing, which obviously Freddie Couples can do because he did it for so long, so well. But it could also bring a little back issues involved, because as you drive the lower body out the way, your lower back does have to get crunched and twisted, so it could cause some back issues, which I know Freddie has. And honestly, most golfers do develop back issues no matter how solid they are. So that's just the unfortunate part of it. So when you are looking at your swing, I want you to look at where your parallel lines are. If they're wide, if they're narrow, make sure your grip matches that. Make sure your ball position matches that. Another one to look at is if it's very narrow, that ball position needs to be more in the center. If it's very wide, that ball position needs to be more off your lead foot to accommodate all this to happen. But if you just go and watch all these videos telling you put the ball placement here or there, and they don't know what type of grip you have, they don't know how you set your wrists, they don't know what your body mechanics are, you're just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, and that's just not the way to get better. So if you do like this, again, hit that like, share, subscribe. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I don't know if I'm coming Sunday, but send me your videos anyway. If I get enough, I'll do a quick little emergency red light live series. But other than that, I'll see you next time. Fairways and greens.